The KRGS Doors Show, proudly brought to you by KRGS Doors. For all your shopfront roller shutters, roller grills, folding closures and bifold doors, visit www.krgsdoors.com.au. Welcome to the KRGS Doors Podcast. I'm your host, Drew Blackman. The aim of our podcast is to talk to cool people with cool stories, whether it be our suppliers, customers, staff, other business owners, or people from different walks of life, and get to know them a bit better. If you're interested in coming on, drop us a line or email, or connect with us via Facebook, and we can have a chat to see what we can do. On today's podcast, I'm joined by KRGS Doors Managing Director Clayton Blackman, and we chat to Ben Fewtrell, Managing Partner of Max My Profit. Established in 2014, Max My Profit provide help and support to business owners who want to grow successful and profitable businesses. A panel beater by trade, he has worked with enough business owners to know what works and what doesn't, and also throws out the odd idea that may work just for your business. Along with Max My Profit, Ben has his own podcast, Business Brain Food, and hosts The Edge, a paint and panel podcast for the smash repair industry, which is also dripping with gold that you could adapt to your business. Please welcome to the podcast, Mr. Ben Fewtrell. Thank you for joining us on the podcast today, Ben. How are you today?
I'm fabulous, thanks, mate. Thanks for having me.
What is the Ben Fewtrell story?
Well, I'll give you the quick version because I'm 47 now, so I've got a few years in my story, a few chapters. But I left school in year 10. I actually failed school. I failed English. I don't know how you can fail English, but speak it. But that was my main problem. My teachers used to say, "You do so much better in class, Ben, if you just stop talking."
English was your second language, though, mate. Is that right?
English was my second one. I think what was my first language? I'm not sure, but. You know, they used to tell me that I'd do much better if I just stopped talking. I'd love to go back to them now and show them how much money I make from sometimes getting paid to speak, which would be different. But certainly for me, school and me didn't agree. You know, I wasn't very good at the academic stuff. I was very good with the hands-on stuff, and that sort of meant that I led into a hands-on sort of career. My dad said, if you're going to leave school early, you had to do a trade. So I'm a panel beater by trade. I loved cars, right? So I got in it because of that. I actually didn't finish. Once I did my trade, I didn't stay in the trade because I didn't actually enjoy working for anybody else. But I didn't work that out straight away. I went through the next 12 months going through as many jobs as there were months. And the one thing I did work out was what I didn't want to do, and that was work for someone else. I didn't make a good employer. I never have. Well, I'll tell a lie. I did work for one guy for about 4 years very successfully in a transport company because that's where I ended up. So in that 12 months, one of the things I ended up doing was becoming a courier driver. Thought I wanted to be a pilot. I did a delivery to Bankston Airport and saw a sign said, "Learn to fly, $60 a week." I thought, that's me.
Fell in love with it.
Yeah, absolutely. But I got I got 2 years in, did my, what they call, you got different levels of medical. I had to do a class 1 medical, and they worked out I was red, green, colourblind, so I couldn't get my commercial licence back then. They've changed the rules now, but obviously too late. So I had to decide what I was going to do. So I went from being a courier driver to getting into an operations management position, after being a radio operator for a transport company, working my way up. And that sort of whet my appetite for business ownership and leading teams. And that's sort of what I did. So I started my own transport company at 24. By the time I was 28, there was a multi-million-dollar business, sold my shares in that. And then I went into business coaching, which is what Max My Profit is now. It's a business that has been built on the DNA of business coaching and training. And that's sort of where I am today. So I have a team of business coaches. We work with hundreds of businesses, and I help other people understand how to navigate their way through growing a business. It's a bit like kids, right? They don't come with instruction manuals. Either do businesses, and a lot of people struggle. You know, you can be good at what you do, which I was. I was great in transport. Absolutely, I was sensational when it came to operating a fleet of trucks and getting stuff from A to B. I sucked at running a business. We worked hard, a lot of hours. We didn't make any money. And I tell people it was a multi-million-dollar business, and when I tell them that and that I sold it, they go, "Wow, that's awesome," but I didn't sell it for much, and I sold it to get out of it, you know. That sort of led to me where I am now, and I'm really passionate about helping business owners understand that building a business is not about being good at what you're technically good at. I don't care how good you are at what you do. I don't care how good your product is. I don't care how passionate you are about it. If you don't know how to run your business, you won't survive. That's the bottom line. And so that's sort of the quick story.
Ben, going back, mate, the transport company, what was that? What company was that you worked with?
When I first started, I started with a company called Sky Road Express.
Yeah.
They had a company, I think it was called Dispatch Machine or something like that. It was their local courier company. And I worked for them for about 3 months. And that's when I first learnt about corporate cuts. It was the first big corporate company I'd worked for. And they'd merged with another company called Wards Express at that time. And they said that, I remember my boss coming in, his name was Mark Gillette. I remember his name because
He did all the cutting, did he?
He did all the cutting, mate. Yeah, you got it. And so he came in to me one day. He said, "I've got some good news and some bad news." And he said, "The good news is we're merging with Wards." He said, "The bad news is that some people are going to go, and you're one of them." So, that was the end of that career. It was pretty short-lived.
Fair enough.
And then I worked for a company called Phoenix, and I worked for them for several years. A fellow called Vince Whitehouse, amazing guy, and he taught me a lot about people and about sales and about how to lead a team, how to keep customers happy and get the job done. So I was really grateful for the 4 years that I spent working for him. And he basically trained me up to start my own business, essentially. He didn't know he was doing that, but that's what he did.
Behind the scenes.
Yeah. I mean, he just gave me a lot of leeway. And I think from a leadership point of view, that's something a lot of business leaders don't do, is they don't let go.
Yes.
And he was very good at letting go and just said, "Mate, you're responsible. Here's what I need you to do. You get the job done, you'll keep your job." It was pretty blunt, but it was what it was, And so I knew what I had to get done. And so long as I did a good job, I'd keep my job. And I never asked for pay rises. He would just give them to me. I never, ever had to ask for anything. They give me company cars. They just looked after me. And I think, that was a great lesson in leadership.
So with Max My Profit, how long have you been in business?
So Max My Profit started in 2014, so about 6 years ago now, but I've been in the business coaching game since 2001. So what happened was my transport company I was working ridiculous hours, wasn't making any money out of it. We had, 60-something trucks on the road. And so it really sounds quite glamorous, but the reality was it was very hard to run and it wasn't a lot of fun. And it was destroying my relationships with my with my wife. And I was working with my father-in-law as well and one of my wife's cousins. And it was sort of, our relationships were very unhealthy. And I was actually making up appointments just to go out. I couldn't stand being in the office anymore. So I would, even if I didn't have an appointment, I'd make one up just so I could go out. And so I had to do something else. So I had met a guy who did business coaching at one of those breakfast networking groups. And the only real reason I joined it was so I could stop somewhere for breakfast and have some company. Because I start so early. Transport starts ridiculously early, right? But I'd go and have brekkie with these people. This guy was a business coach. And before I sort of finished up with my transport company, I actually tried to work with this guy, but my father-in-law was the kind of guy who didn't want to have anything to do with it. He was an older generation. No one's going to tell me how to run a business. So we never engaged this guy. But I always was, I was always, I guess, interested or curious as to what it is he actually did. What does a business coach actually do? So when the opportunity came and I made the decision, I said, I'm just going to sell my shares to my father-in-law, get out of this business and do something else. I thought, what am I going to do? I thought, you know what? I'm going to go and talk to the guy and see if I can be a coach. And, nothing really qualified me to do that. And that's probably one of the keys to my success is sometimes I'm just willing to give it a go. And so I went and had lunch with the guy. And within 30 days, I was a franchisee for a big business coaching company. And within months, I had, I was breaking all the records in that company. And so what I learned very quickly was that there's a lot of businesses out there that need help and they need guidance, and they can go to their accountants, but the jargon and the complexity of it's too much. They can read books and stuff, but sometimes it's hard to know what pieces to put where and when. But if you've got somebody there that is just guiding you and pushing you along the way, it doesn't matter what experience I have. The reality was I was just there holding their hand and helping them. So that's how I started out in coaching. But I quickly learned that I didn't want to do everything. For me, I wanted to build a team again. And I started building a team, and then I worked out that I was very good at sales in this industry. And there were a lot of great coaches. Fantastic coaches that they were great at what they did, but they weren't great at getting clients. And so I started partnering with them, and I said, I'll bring the clients in, you coach them and you look after them, you keep them, the old grinders, minders, finders type thing. And so I said, I'll be a finder, you be a grinder and a minder, and we'll just share the revenue, which is what happened. So I ended up building quite a big team. And one thing led to the next, and we built a big business. And we started to lean a bit on the government's vet fee help up until about 5 years ago or 6 years ago when they changed it all. And that meant that we had a couple of companies that we were dealing with that went under, and we had to change what we were doing. And that's where Max My Profit was born. And at that stage, we sort of developed a different system, because coaching's great, right? Don't get me wrong, I love coaching, but coaching on its own is not enough. And so Max My Profit was born because we realised that you need someone guiding you, holding your hand and driving you through the process, but you also need other resources. And so we created this online hub. We have over 1,000 resources. We have an e-learning platform. We have events. We have all sorts of other things that we add into our programs to make them more valuable.
Obviously work alongside one of your guys from Maximo Profit. We work with Simon Whittaker. We bounce a lot of stuff off, both Drew and myself, constantly. How many business coaches have you got under your banner, mate?
So in our coaching team, there's 7 coaches, maybe 8, I think, 8 coaches. Losing count, that's not good. And then we've got a sales team, telemarketing team, and then we've got a digital accelerator as well. So we've got a digital team, we've got a finance accelerator. So we've got a few other coaches, and then we've got some contractors as well. So when that vet fee thing sort of turned upside down, I had 48 employees, and I said to myself, I don't want to go back there. I want to be smarter in the way I set this business up. So a lot of our people are contractors now. We outsource a lot. I've got people in England that do work for us, people in America that do work for us, people all over Australia. And so that works really, really well. So our team now is about, I think, 11 full-time employees and then some casuals as well. And then we've got the outsourced team as well.
The big thing there too, as you said, was being the minder and holding people's hand. It's also keeping the business owner accountable to make sure that they are doing the process, because they want to grow and learn as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's probably the key to coaching, is the accountability. I also do weight loss coaching as well, which I only started in the last 6 months. And that was because I've lost 30-something kilos myself and kept it off. And I've done it selfishly, because holding other people accountable holds me accountable. And that's why I think in our business, we have all our ducks in a row. We have all our systems in place, because you have to be congruent, right? And I found with my weight loss, I'm 47. You think I would have learned how to eat properly before then, but it wasn't until I had a coach. And I don't know why I didn't go and get myself a weight loss coach until a year and a bit ago. But having that accountability is so key. And it's the same thing in business, right? So if I say to you guys, write down the list of 21 things you know you should be doing but you haven't done, you'll be able to write that list down. I don't need to give you that list. But when I say to you, why haven't you done it? You'll give me excuses. And they'll all be, pardon the language, piss weak. At the end of the day, most people don't do stuff because they just don't want to. It's too hard. I'm not sure how. And they'll make a million. Sometimes they call them reasons. That's a really fancy word for excuses. But
I think my top one would be, I like my local bakery.
For the weight loss.
When it comes to weight loss, yeah.
Is that right?
It's easy to make excuses, right? And so I think the accountability is a big part of it, Drew. There's no doubt about it. That's what I think is that's the key to coaching, is you have someone there making sure you do what you got to get done.
With Maximo Profit, you do work with a lot of small businesses, and in this crucial time, how do you feel businesses can diverse themselves to improve or do something different in that sense?
I think some businesses can't, right? So business people can. Some businesses just are shut down and that's it, end of story. But as an entrepreneur, you can do anything, right? And this is what I've been saying to people. It's easy to get all upset and depressed about what's going on, because what you've worked so hard for has just been stopped, right? And for some people, that is the case. Like the government said, you can't do what you're doing anymore. And that makes it really hard. But it doesn't mean you can't pivot and do something else. Now, I know, for example, the local pub opposite my office, the hotel, they got shut down. They can't have anybody in there. And what they started a drive-through supplies. Now, as a pub, they had a lot of food, they had a lot of stock, that they had, pastas, they had toilet paper, they had all sorts of stock sitting in their storage room. They actually just started selling it, right? They started a drive-through supply company. I thought, well, that was pretty clever. And since that's happened, it gave them time to think about, okay, well, if we're going to be a supply company, if we're going to supply consumers products that they need, we need to find suppliers that can supply us other stuff. And so they started to do that. And I remember one day they had the lineup of cars up the street was huge.
I actually heard this on the news. This was advertised on the news about a pub had become diversified, and they started selling. They were like a mini market, where all of a sudden their drive-through, they were selling toilet paper and milk and papers and whatever they could get their hands on. Yeah, they just turned it. Well, I forget what news it was on, but it was on one of them that they just turned the pub into a supermarket.
You know what? To me, that was just brilliance, right? And that was them. And they did that within a day of the announcement of the shutdown.
Genius.
Right? So absolutely. It was almost like they had a disaster recovery plan that said, if the coronavirus ever comes.
Yeah, this is what we're doing.
Yeah. I mean, my hat's off to them. So that's one thing. I've seen, I work quite close with the collision repair industry. Being a panel beater by trade, I've got a strong connection in that industry. And I've seen some of those guys pivoting, and they're painting. We've got one of our guys that Simon also coaches. He's painting coffins of all things. They can paint anything, but they get stuck in this we all do. We get stuck with these blinkers on going, I've learned how to do X. It's uncomfortable for me to go and do something else, but sometimes you've got to learn to pivot, haven't you? There's a cafe in Branxton, which is sort of regional New South Wales, just, somewhere near Newcastle.
Yeah.
And that cafe had to employ 12 new delivery people because of the way they had changed their business. Up until that point, they were a cafe. They waited for people to walk in the door. But by changing the way they offered their products and services to the local community, they had to employ 12 more people to service the customers. So they've grown as a result of this. So, sometimes it is about, being an entrepreneur. Like, goodness sake, that's what you are. It's easy to get beaten down by this, or you can look at the opportunity. You think, where is everybody now, right? What's changed for consumers? Where are they?
They're all at home.
Yeah. They're all at home. Okay, so they're all at home, so they must have new challenges. What are their new challenges? They're the things that you now need to think about. How do we overcome that? What are they worried about? They're worried about getting infected. Okay, that's the new challenge. What can't they buy? That's a new challenge. They can't go out and eat anymore. New challenge. There's a restaurant that I saw, they're delivering ready-to-cook meals. So they're delivering their off-the-menu ready-to-cook meals, and they with an instructional video on how to cook like the chef cooks the meal.
How good's that?
I've seen another restaurant where you get somebody a waiter comes and cooks for you and feeds you and then takes all the dirty dishes away. Nothing's saying you can't have one person over to your house.
Don't tell my wife that one.
It's an essential service, right? So you just got to be a little bit more creative. Do you charge more? Of course you do, but people are willing to pay for it, because the one thing it's sad. A lot of people have lost their jobs, but a lot of people haven't. And there's a lot of people that were spending money they're not spending anymore. But there's still a lot of money in the economy to be spent,
I was having this conversation on the weekend with my middle daughter, Chloe, because she works at the Barrel Hotel. And obviously similar, they've been put off. She works behind the bar there. They've been put off because the pub's shut. But they've been a little bit diverse. Obviously, they've got a bottle shop where people used to drive through. Now they're doing home deliveries. And one of the things I was wondering with her was, once we get back to normal, or close to normal, I suppose, are they going to continue doing the home deliveries? So it's an avenue that they didn't have before, and they're actually going out doing deliveries. So are they going to keep that up after we get back to normal?
We'd hope so, wouldn't you? I mean, it'd be a shame if they've gone and learnt a new way to generate revenue.
They've built this leg. They've built this leg of the brand of the brand, and then all of a sudden you're going to kill it off.
Yeah, we'd just be crazy. So I would say to anybody who has diversified and come up with a new offer, unless that offering's not going to be valuable once everyone goes back to work, for example, maybe people won't want that. But, you can definitely see things like, food delivery has gone through the roof. I don't know if you've noticed how many delivery scooters there are now everywhere. It's just insane, right? So, you could become a delivery scooter repairman, or maybe even buying scooters and renting them out. Like a lot of these people, right, the scooters can't afford them. Go and buy 50 or 100 scooters and rent them out to people that need a job.
Yeah.
Now that might not be needed once this all goes, because maybe people will eat out again. I don't know. I think it's really training people to think differently and operate differently. Even things like Zoom, to have meetings on Zoom. Before coronavirus, a lot of people didn't know how to use Zoom or Skype, and now all of a sudden everyone's a Zoom expert. I see Zoom training.
I think you're going to see a lot more meetings and so forth with people. Yeah, with Zoom, and for sure.
Well, even on that, I tried to upgrade our camera on our laptop so we could get better vision, and you can't buy any because they're all sold out, because everyone has them for working from home and things like that.
Yeah, isn't that incredible? You think about it. If I was a cabinet maker, if I'd thought outside of the box 3-4 weeks ago, I would have been making little home working solutions pretty quickly, with power outlets on them. And
as you know, we deal with a lot of shop fitters. So a lot of shop fitters are our core business. And I follow a lot of them on social media and so forth. And they're coming up with packages for working from home. So desks, whether they're already put together or you've got to put them together and so forth. But it's like anything. Like you go to IKEA and all the desks are sold out. I was down at Rebel Sports on the weekend. There's not one stick of gym equipment left in the whole place. It's the joint's empty. It's just so many people have gone and bought home gyms and got organised home gyms. So on the office side of things, everyone's working from home, even with the kids at school. So there's in multiple families, there's 2 and 3 and 4 all at home working from home.
And look, and I think that's it's so important to think about that from a business point of view. So if I was a shop fitter, there's no doubt that I could panic and go, well, none of the shops are open. No one's going to want me. Or I could go, what could I do to help people? Like maybe I could go to a pub and say, hey, pub, I've got this really cool idea. The local bicycle shops can't cope with the demand because there's queues out the bicycle shops. People want to get their bikes fixed. Why don't you turn your pub into a bicycle service centre? Hire some people that know how to service bikes. I'll do a shop fit out for you, quickly change it so you've got workbenches in here to service bikes. And all of a sudden we turn your pub into a push bike service centre. We'll advertise it locally and away you go. Now, if I was a shop fitter, now I might have to talk to 30 pub owners before I get one that doesn't think I'm an insane buffhead with a crazy idea. But all it takes is one to go, yep, I like that idea. And I help one person convert their pub into a bike service centre, and then they'll all be ringing me.
I was talking to a customer yesterday. He was on the road and he was driving past. I can't remember who it was or where it was, but he was driving along the street and there was this bike shop. And he said it was like Woolworths. He said it was like they had them 20, 30. He said they had them out the door lined up every metre and a half. People are getting their bikes serviced or buying or fixed or whatever, because obviously a lot more people are trying to get outside and train a little bit and do whatever they can outside.
Mate, I saw a guy making dumbbells out of pot plants, quick set cement and bars he'd bought from Bunnings.
I had the same yesterday. A friend of mine I went to primary school with, her sons were doing barbells and they had 2 buckets full of concrete and they were creating their own weights. Same thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's just brilliance, really, when you think about it. And that's innovative at its best. And I think these times are when entrepreneurs truly shine, because an entrepreneur is a creative person. They're not great at managing stuff. Entrepreneurs aren't great with consistently doing the same thing over and over again. But when there's pressure, entrepreneurs are the ones that stand above the crowd and look ahead and go, I can see an idea down there. I'm going over there.
I'm going to go with it.
Yeah, and I think we've seen some great innovation come out of this, and we'll continue to see innovation. Like you said, more and more people will meet virtually using things like Zoom and Skype. I mean, who wants to sit in traffic, really?
Yes.
I mean, I can see the collision repair industry is doing quotes now over Zoom, or you can, they've got apps. They've developed apps now where you take photos on your phone. I mean, they're just saving people heaps of time, and that's what we need. We need innovation. That's why Airbnb is so popular and Uber's so popular, because they took something people already do and made it better.
Yeah.
And that's really what you've got to do, is how do we make this better? So the shops are shut. Well, be really good with online marketing,
shopping. Yeah.
Hey guys, sorry to interrupt the podcast. We have a word from our sponsor. KRGS Doors, a clear-stack bifolding door, delivers a wall of security while still showcasing your product. Unlike traditional folding stackable doors, the KRGS ClearStack sits completely inside the lease line to allow maximum shopfront space, with no floor track equaling no trip hazard. The KRGS ClearStack is a most versatile, innovative door. Open your business to passing trade or even engage your customer when not trading. For more information, visit www.krgsdoors.com.au or call 1800 897 822. Now back to the podcast.
It'll be interesting to see where you said about if things will change. There might be that they don't go back to the old way at all, and some of these pubs may go, look, we only do home delivery.
Well, you know what? You think about, I mean, I've worked with businesses before in the past where they've realised that their bricks and mortar side of their business has not been profitable. And so sometimes that is the case. So that you'll find businesses that don't work out of big offices or don't have a shop front anymore because they work out that working online is more beneficial for them.
Absolutely.
It's not for everybody, but what happens is, if you think about a shop is their marketing, really, but it's got to have, it's got to be attracting the right people. The problem with a shop is it is geographically limited. So I always say to people, if you've got a shop, you've also got to sell online. There's a guitar store in, do you guys play guitar at all?
I'd love to. I had lessons, mate, but I don't have the patience.
Oh, yeah? I've been playing guitar for a long time, so I sort of see what's going on.
If I wanted patience, I would have been a doctor.
So you got as much patience as an empty hospital. That's
exactly right.
So there's a guitar store, and I've got no affiliation with them. I don't even know them, so they're going to get a plug here. Port Macquarie Guitars. The reason I love their story
I expect something in the post from Port Macquarie Guitars shortly, right?
A free guitar and some guitar lessons.
Absolutely.
With a very patient guitar teacher.
We'll have to tag him in on this, right, Drew?
Absolutely. But they've got a store up in Port Macquarie. They would sell more guitars Australia-wide than they do in Port Macquarie by dozens of times. And it's to do with their online marketing and their return policy. And they did it before. They were doing it before the coronavirus. But I can tell you that they just had a huge, what they call the stimulus sale. I reckon they just sold, 500 guitars in a week. There's probably not a store in Australia that's done that. Here, these guys have done it because they thought outside of the box, but they already had all their online stuff set up. If you want to buy a guitar from them, you might be going, but I want to play it. I want to hear it. They'll set up a live online session with you where they'll play it.
You're kidding.
No. And then if you like it, they send it to you. And if you play it when you get it and you don't like it, they'll get a courier to come pick it up and take it back.
How's that for customer service?
Absolutely. So, when something like this hits, they're shining. Even
so they set up that video Skype type thing or Zoom type thing with them before coronavirus, or was it just after? That's
before.
Good. That's really good thinking, and that's good sell. That's a good sell.
So they were already working down this path. You know what we've seen? We've seen people. There's two types of businesses or two ways businesses are going through this. Some are strong enough that they're just sitting steady, waiting for the storm to pass. They're batting down the hatches. They're fine, and that was because they were smart. They knew their numbers, put some money aside. And then there's those that are on a knife's edge before this happened, which is no different to what we're seeing with Virgin Australia. They had a huge amount of debt, and this, it's only been weeks since they couldn't fly. That should not kill a big company like that, right? They
no,
should
exactly.
Be strong enough to get through this, But I see there's some businesses that are on a knife's edge. They're the ones that are really struggling right now. There's those that had enough money in the kitty, and they're the ones that are able to sit and think, okay, well, what else can I do? They can innovate. They've got the mental headspace to do it because they're not panicking.
Yes.
And so that's really what's happening. The ones that are panicking, they're the ones that are, unfortunately, they're spreading a lot of the panic as well. They go, oh, it's doom and gloom. It's this and that. Well, it's a lot to do with mindset, isn't it?
And also probably not spending money wisely as well, trying to find the cheap dollar or the quick dollar to come out of it, where the other ones have got enough funds there to plan and go, actually, this is the route we want to take.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, it definitely affects your decision-making process. Anybody who's ever been short of money will know it causes a stress, and it means you don't think rationally when you're making decisions. You want to make better business decisions. It's always good to have some money in the bank.
Yes.
And you never want to gamble with something you can't afford to lose. And so things like marketing are a gamble. There is always going to be something that doesn't work. And in this time, you've got to test new things, right? Even we've been running different marketing campaigns for the last 4 weeks, and some of them have failed. I've done $1,000 on some stuff, but some stuff has worked well, So I'm just testing stuff, but I've had to go, I'm going to put $1,000. It's like putting $1,000 on red or black.
And hoping for the best.
And if you double your money, you go, all right, I'll have another crack.
Yes.
And if you find something that works, then you can keep playing that same card. There are times when there are people out there that don't have anything left, and they've had nothing in reserves. And the problem is when you have nothing in reserves and something like this hits, it's very hard, isn't it?
It certainly is. Just on that innovating side of things, 2 points I'll make. That there's a pizza shop that's local to me, and as you said about the delivery, they're actually delivering all the ingredients and the dough ready to make and the sauce so you can make it at home. They give you the instructions, like you said, the video and things like that, where people aren't ordering pizza. Well, they can order this pack, it gets delivered, they make it up. So they've got an experience at home as well, but the pizza shop's still able to operate.
Yeah, I think that's important. Pizza shops can do takeaway and delivery anyway, but I think what you're talking about there, and I think what a lot of places have tapped into, is that people are at home bored.
Yes.
And they want to learn how to cook, right? And if you can learn how to make your own pizza, a lot of pizza places would be afraid to do that because they go, we're going to teach them how to make pizza. But let's face it, once life goes back to some normality, they don't want to be, spending all this time at home.
Yes.
It's just that everyone's bored. It's the same reason why Bunnings is so busy. Everyone's at home DIYing. I've never seen so many Skippins delivered in my street in all my life.
I saw a thing the other day where I feel sorry for all the blokes that have told their wives, I haven't got enough time to do that such and such job. Well, hey, time's come. You've got plenty now, darling.
Get that list out.
Yes, exactly right. The other one that I was going to mention was, and Simon, one of your coaches there mentioned it to me, that there's a cafe that unfortunately they've had to lay their staff off, but the mother and the father, or the owners, or a husband and wife, are still operating it, and they're only opening up 7 o'clock till 10 o'clock, doing a limited menu of takeaway bacon and egg rolls and things like that, and coffee. But they're actually making more profit now than when they were running a full staff, full open kitchen.
And once you know what, I think that is true. I think the thing is that people, and I'll probably get, some haters for this, but people are sheep. And so what I think happens is, if I start a cafe, I think I've got to do what every other cafe does.
Yes.
That's the reality, right? And so I just follow the other sheep. And so to do something that's not normal, regardless of looking at the numbers, feels outside of their comfort zone. And so I always say, I'm happy for people to throw rocks at me. I'll build a house out of it, right? Throw as many rocks as you want. But too many people are sheep. They'll just do what everybody else does and then wonder why they're not getting results. Well, you're doing what everybody else does. So it's great to hear that people are innovating in a way that they're working 3 hours a day and making more money.
More
How
money,
good's that?
yes. Yeah. That's the key.
What a great outcome. To me, I think that's a beautiful outcome of something like that. And there was always a silver lining in every cloud. It's very sad. A lot of people lost their jobs. My personal opinion is the government's overreacted to this whole thing. That's mine.
I think we agree here as well that the government hasn't helped, and probably the media hasn't helped either. That I'm sick and tired of watching TV because it's COVID, and you do your head in. I try and find something else just to get away from it.
Yeah. Look, we've had, 50, 60, 70 deaths, and it would be very sad if it was one of my relatives, but they're people that were already probably immune depressed or something, or elderly. And then, really, I think we had 5 infections overnight as the time of recording this. It's very low. And to stop the entire economy, Virgin Australia's into voluntary administration, 750,000 people are out of work.
Tell us the positives about it, not the negatives. I want to know how many people are recovered and how long before we're going to get businesses up and running and get back to normal.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's going to be back to normal for some time, to be honest with you, mate. I think they're going to be. I think it's going to be a little while before we see businesses return to normal. And I'm actually hoping no one goes back to normal, as we've been talking. I hope people have taken this opportunity to understand that you need to think outside the box to grow your business, and maybe it's given people those skills now. Hopefully, it has,
and possibly the time as well to act on those.
Yeah, well, like I said, those people that were busy in their cafe, mate, that you were talking about, they've probably been too busy to think of any other way to run their business.
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden, the government says, we're going to shut you down. They're going, well, what am I going to do with all my time? Well, you've got to sit there and think of new ideas, right?
Yes.
So all of a sudden, they're now got the time to work on their business instead of in it, which is what coaching's all about, right? We drag you out of working in to work on, and that's where the magic happens. You don't make much money trading your time for money. You make money when you're working on your business.
Ben, to wrap up our podcast, we ask all our guests our Fast 5 questions, and it's just to get to know them a little bit better. So the first one is, what would be your last meal?
Barbecue pork in plum sauce.
Nice.
To be precise.
With boiled rice.
Oh.
Very nice.
I love it. I love Chinese.
What is your drink of choice?
Craft beers. I love my craft beers. When I travel, I always drink whatever I'm very adventurous. So I'll always try something that's from the local brewery. I'll just take the risk, eh? If I don't like it, I'll just order another one.
Have you got a local one that you like here, mate? Take particular fancy to?
My favourite would probably be, I like a lot of them, but if I had to pick one, I love James Squire Amber Ale. I love a good amber ale, and that's not a small brewery by any means, but no. I do love a good amber ale. That or the Endeavour Amber Ale is very nice as well.
Yeah, good one.
Just on that, you see breweries now, speaking of diversing, that they're doing hand sanitizers and things like that because they've got all the equipment to go into that market as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't try and buy hand sanitizer.
No. If you could trade lives with anyone for a day, who would it be and why?
Wow, that's a tricky one. Who would it be and why? Goodness me. You know what? I'm pretty happy with my life. I don't think I would, but if I had to pick somebody, it would probably be somebody who was very like an adventurer, somebody who's done a lot of adventuring. So, maybe somebody who's flown an airplane around the world solo or something like that. So I can't think of any one particular person, but anybody who was an adventurer.
In that space.
I love adventure. I love getting out and adventuring.
Who do you most admire?
I'm going to say I admire, rather than one particular person, I admire a group of people, and that is entrepreneurs. I admire people that are willing to put themselves on the line to improve something. When and whether it's entrepreneur or whether it's just, I admire people that get out of their comfort zone. I love watching things like those music shows where people come on and to compete, like The Voice, etc., or MasterChef or whatever. I admire people who put themselves out there who take a risk.
Have a go.
And yeah.
Yeah, good one.
Excellent. And finally, if heaven does exist, what would God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
What are you doing here? Head back downstairs, buddy. You haven't earned the right to be here.
Too soon.
Too soon. Well, that wraps up our chat, Ben. Where can people find you if they want to get more information about Max My Profit or yourself?
So head to maxmyprofit.com.au, nice and simple, maxmyprofit, all one word, .com.au, or you can find me on LinkedIn. So just find Ben Fewtrell, Fewtrell, on LinkedIn. Hook up with me there.
From a KRGS Doors perspective, we obviously work with Max My Profit and Ben and Simon and the team, and I think we've been with these guys less than 12 months.
Yes.
And we've learned a hell of a lot so far and pointed us in the right direction and given us different ideas and different things in small business. I can well and truly guarantee you'll learn something working with Max My Profit and the team there. It's been a great relationship and one that we want to continue.
Fantastic, mate. That's music to my ears. I love to hear the success stories that the team are looking after you and you're getting great results. And it's what we're all about.
And it does stem back to those excuses that you said before, I haven't got time or I don't know how. The steps and the training and the hub and everything, it's all there available at your fingertips.
Yeah. I always say to people, I can't sell what we do to you. You've got to enroll in it because it is like going to the gym. If you don't really want to turn up, you won't, right? So I always say to people, if you're going to talk to us, be ready to be held accountable. Be ready to be called on your rubbish because that's what we do.
And it's also in simple terms as well. As you said,
explain it.
The accountant jargon and that type of thing that your eyes are rolling back in your head because you're not too sure what they're talking about. It's all there in black and white and it's quite simple.
Well, I'm a pretty simple guy, so that probably stems from that.
That makes two of us. Again, Ben, thank you for jumping on the podcast. We do appreciate it. We'll chat to you soon.
All the best, mate. Thanks very much.
Thanks,
Take care.
guys.
Cheers, bye.
Appreciate having me on.
That wraps up our chat with Ben Fewtrell of Max My Profit. For more information on Max My Profit, visit www.maxmyprofit.com.au or check out Ben's podcast, Business Brain Food, or The Edge, Paint and Panel. If you have missed any previous episodes of the KRGS Doors podcast, you can download them from our website, www.krgsdoors.com.au/podcast, or on your favourite podcast player, search KRGS Doors. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button to ensure you don't miss any future episodes. This also boosts our ranking and my ego. On our next episode, we speak to Mick and Mark Saller from Saller Motorsports. Mick is the pilot of the 900 horsepower sprint car and owner at Mega Cash Penrith, and Mark is the team owner of Saller Motorsports and MSP Shop Fitting. As always, you could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with us. Thanks. Till next time. The KRGS Doors Show, proudly brought to you by KRGS Doors. For all your shopfront roller shutters, roller grills, folding closures and bifold doors, visit www.krgsdoors.com.au.